Okay, so it's morning, next day. We let it sit in the salt brine solution, which actually was just emptying a little earlier, because you don't want it to sit for 8 to 10 hours at most. Any longer than that, then you're going to have the hair start coming out of the hide. So in the salt and the baking soda, it was sitting for 8 to 10 hours. We're going to take it out. I've already emptied that solution out, and I've also rinsed it inside of this same container. Rinsed it a couple times, a little bit of Dawn, just to clean out any more dirt and debris that's sitting on the hide. So that part's already done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hang it, and we're going to hang it on a nice rope like this. This is just like a laundry detergent line, but see, the hide is a little wet, but we're going to hang it to dry. We want it to dry slowly, and we don't want to add heat or anything like that to it. So, something kind of like this, and I'll put the crimpers on and have it hang this way, right out here. I might even hang it sideways over this way, just to spare some room. And get the clamps on it, and then have it clamped up and hanging. Okay. So when this hangs and dries, I'm going to let it dry till about 3/4 dry probably. So it's got malleability, but there's still some moisture content. The outer fur will be mostly dry at that point. Everything should be mostly dry. And then we can work in the tanning solution, the egg and mayonnaise tanning solution we're going to try with this. Okay. I was hanging the hide outside on the line, but we had a bit of a change in weather. It started to rain a little bit in the afternoon. And then we were getting snow overnight. You don't want it to freeze out there, so I actually brought it in to finish the drying process. I hung it on the pole, and I had the dehumidifier going just to help soak some of that water out of the hide. Take a look outside here, and you can see we had some snow overnight, which is not ideal for hanging. So I brought it in, and we're going to finish the drying inside and then go with the curing process here inside the house. Okay, so we're at this point. We've taken the hide. It's being salted. We've taken the salt off. We've put it in a salt brine. We've taken that off. We've washed it with a little bit of Dawn and some baking soda, and then let it dry out. Then we've let it air dry, and now you can kind of see it's dry to the touch, but it's still malleable. It's got some flexibility to it, but you can see it's starting to dry, and on the edges and things like that, you might find it's a little difficult to get some of the fat off the very tips, but in this case, we're going to be trimming a lot of that off, so we have a nice, rounded, smoother hide, better overall eye appeal in the end. But here's the different part. We're using a tanning solution, which is egg yolks and mayonnaise, and I have a dozen egg yolks and a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise. Mix it together really well, and then you heat it up, so it's warmer than room temperature, kind of warm, like a warm water kind of consistency. And then what I also did is I ran the knife over this hide again, because there's still little tiny chunks of fat. You can see some spots here where it was, and I kind of scraped them off. It's a little easier to go over it. Some people use a drill with a brush, but I mean, going over it with the knife did a pretty good job of cleaning off most of the little fat pieces. I'm pretty happy with it. It's not perfect. I'm sure a professional tanner would do a lot better, but I mean, this is more going to be here at home as a carpet kind of thing. So this tanning, it's really the fats and oils in here that do most of the work, and it's going to work pretty well. We're going to apply the tanning solution, and you want to get it into every little nook and cranny that you can. So you don't want to get it on the fur, because it can cause some nasty smells later. So we're just going to apply this now, put it on to cover everything. And what I'm going to do is I'll make this application, and I'll probably reapply a little later, but what I'll do is I'll take this, then I'm going to fold it over on itself, skin to skin, and then I'll reapply again later this afternoon, and then I'll take it back off and give it another cleaning. But for now, it's just getting this tanning solution on the actual skin itself. So This is important. If you don't have you can't, not everybody can just buy brains. And in this case, I used I had to boil the skull because I made a Euro mount. So it was a bit of a messy process and I didn't want to use the brains in that case. So what I'm doing here is the egg solution, and because of COVID and everything takes forever. We're in Canada, so if I'm trying to ship something from the States, you know, it's a long wait. So a lot easier for me to go ahead and do this compared to buying something off Amazon or whichever. And it's hard to find tanning supply and stuff, high tanning supply stuff at least, for where we are. So the egg yolks work perfect. It should give me a very similar result as if I did a brain tan. And this should be enough. Dozen eggs, quarter cup of mayonnaise mixed together well, should be enough to tan this entire hide. I mean, it's pretty cheap too. A dozen eggs doesn't cost anyone very much. But there's one thing that's important, is if you want a soft tan, a soft hide, you're going to have to get in here and work this hide and stretch it out and stretch these fibers. If you watch here, I'll pull, and you might even see the fabric stretch a little bit. Well, maybe not like that, but you will have a bit of a stretch to it. It'll kind of have a whitish hue, like you're pulling the fibers apart. And when those fibers are split apart, after this is all done, they won't go back together and tighten up. And so that's why you have a softer hide. So really, after this is set and gotten into the hide, you really have to go and work it for a couple days. Really, don't work to the point of injury, but just work, come back to it, work it, come back to it, work it, and just keep stretching it as it cures. And then we'll do the smoking. So once again, I guess I could have done better with removing everything off the hide. There's a little bit here, we'll see how it goes, but really it's, with my little paint knife, it's about as best as I'm gonna get. So what I'll do is, once this is all on, I come back this afternoon, give another coating. I might need another half a dozen eggs for the second coat. And then, I mean, I might even be able to keep this solution. I use a dozen eggs, but I'm probably actually gone through maybe 8 eggs on this, maybe 10. And remember, it's just the egg yolks I'm referring to. But I'll probably just go ahead and use most of this on this particular solution here on this side. So this will soften this hide up a little bit, re-moisturize it again, and this will be the part where I go ahead and put the hide back over on itself. And it's really important to try to get as much fat and stuff off, just because those parts won't be tanned. And actually at this stage, removing the fat is a little easier than doing it when it's fresh. It's less chance of damaging the hide because the hide is really hardened up, and it's not too much trouble. But yeah, like if you're like me and you're gonna use it as like a throw for the floor, the carpet, you want it to be flat, but I mean, it's as far as being smooth, that's not as, or smooth and malleable, it's not as big of a factor. So that looks like it's probably enough. A little more here, just in this lower area. It's hard to remove some of the fat around the neck and the tail area. Okay. So now, I'm going to take this, fold it over on itself, let it sit, and I'll be back to this later today. I don't want that to get on the tail skin. There we go. So I'm going to let that sit until this afternoon when I come back and do a reapplication. These parts here that are exposed, I'll add a little extra just to compensate for it not being covered over completely. That's it for a few hours at least. Some people, if you're using a real tanning solution, you might do it for, 10 to 16 hours. Whereas in this case, I'm coming back in the afternoon. I'm going to do another application and we'll see how she looks. Then I'll do the stretching after it's cured. And that'll take a couple days of stretching. And then when the stretching is done, I'm going to do some smoking. I've unfolded it. It's been about half an hour, 40 minutes or so. Doesn't look very pretty right now. I'm going to take a damp, wet cloth and just kind of wipe this down a little bit. It has to be, try to make sure it's warm if possible. You want to get some of the solution off. I probably could have used a little bit more water in the solution when I originally applied it. But I'm going to be adding about a ratio of about 1 to 4 on the second application. So 4 parts water, 1 part egg. And this is just to help work it. And then after I rinse this off, before I make the second application, I'm going to wring it out to stretch out a little bit more moisture. And then I'm going to reapply the egg tanning solution. And we'll go from there. So this just helps. The warm water helps to just soak it in a little bit more. When you're doing the first application, it's all about getting it in to the hide, but you don't want to leave it too long either. I'm going to put the second application on, and that'll sit for up to about a day. You don't want to leave this egg solution on much longer than that, because you don't want to get bacteria and all that stuff to start growing. So it's really just doing this, shaking it out, and then reapplying. And that's, I can already feel that it's gotten a lot smoother and softer, right? Like, you can see it's softening up really nice. So we're going to go ahead, rinse this, and then I'm going to apply the egg. Now make sure the water's hot when you apply the second coat of egg yolks. Okay, so we took it outside, we wrung it out, as much moisture as I possibly could. And now we're going to reapply the second coat. Now this is a little bit different in color. You can see it's a little more watery because it's a quarter egg compared to the last one. So 1/4 egg, 3/4 water, and then this is the final application for tanning. We're going to let sit, and we're going to let this sit for about, I'd like to let it sit for about 12 hours on here. So I'll come back to it later on tonight. And then we'll take it and we can rinse it off. And then we can smoke the hide. But just, once again, make sure you got everything covered. And you don't want to sit too long because you don't want it to start breeding bacteria, smelling, and then loosening up your hairs. And you really just want the oils and the fats, the essential oils and fats from in here to penetrate that skin and help hold that hide together and cure it. And once again, we'll be trimming some of the edges of this hide off, so it's not a perfect cut on the sides. That's okay. We'll wring it out after this, rinse it off, wring it out. And when I say rinse it off, I mean like damply with the cloth, just to clean up some of this yellowing. But you'll be here for that part. Okay, so it's been about 24 hours since we put the second application of the egg yolk tan on. It was a little damp. We flipped the hide over on itself and we let it sit for that roughly, it's been actually about 20 hours or so, but you don't want to let it sit for more than 24 hours. You can see after taking it out, it's starting to get a nice leathery feel to it. You can see that. It's still got a little bit of egg yolk on it, but as we stretch this, I'm going to run it over a piece of 2x6 just to work that hide. That'll help clean a lot of that off. but it's dry right now. I'm smoking it to help kill off any bacteria, and it helps preserve the hide. So while this is smoking, I'm going to take it off and I'm going to work that material just to try to get that bit more of a softer kind of feel. So I've just put it up here. You can see we've got the smoke coming against it, but it's not hot. It's, I mean, probably about 70 degrees or about 20 degrees Celsius right here. So it's not too hot. I'm going to put this over, and as it starts to dry up and get that leathery texture, then I'm going to start working that hide and stretching it and pulling it and twisting it just to try to get it soft, right? A little bit more malleable, and it's important to do that during this process. Take it off, work it, and then put it back on, flip it around, just smoke it, work it while you smoke it while you work it, and then we're getting closer to our final product. You can see it's going to get a whitish color, and that's just from stretching it. This is not completely dry yet, and it's going to continue drying during the smoking. But just pulling those the fibers apart and stretching them out, letting them cure that way, is really what is going to be the difference between a rough, hard hide and a smooth hide, one that's more malleable. We have smoked the hide. We've already put the tanning solution on, which was the egg mayonnaise, and we reapplied it. We've actually dried it out a little more during the smoking process. I worked it a little bit during the smoking process, taking it off, putting it back on, and then I brought it back inside, ran out of the dehumidifier, and as you can see, we have a hide now. It's a little stiff. It's got some workability because I have done some work to it, but if you really want to have a softer, more flexible hide, then you're going to want to work it more. In this case, what I've done is I flipped over a table. You have the posts of the table here that just an outdoor table, came off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this over. Now this is not pretty. It's a bit of a pain, and it's a lot of work. You're going to have to kind of come back to it. So here, I'm going to just run it back and forth a couple times. Be careful not to tear your hide. Quiet, guys. So you be careful not to tear your hide. But you can see where we've been rubbing it. You're starting to stretch those fibers in the hide, right? Here we go again. Has a nice smoky smell to it, actually. It doesn't smell terrible at all. But we're going to start working it back and forth, back and forth. Now I'm going to use this as a throw for the floor, so it doesn't need to be too flexible and smooth. It's not like it's a piece of clothing for me. But it's important, right? Like, the hair is. You can, if you really pull, you might take a little bit out, but it's in there pretty good, so it's not really going to be moving. And you can see I took a pair of scissors and just trimmed around some of the edges. It's always hard to get the edges perfect when you're drying and smoking and things like that, even when you're cleaning. So, you know, just have it in the sense that, or have it in your mind that you may trim some of the edges out. But I'm going to continue to. Guys, get on. Dude, I'm just going to keep working this. I'm going to come back to this a bunch of times. It's not going to be something that's going to be done today. I'm going to have to come back and continuously work it until I get the consistency that I want. I mean, for a throw, if you're throwing it over your couch, or if you're throwing it over your floor, you could do it as is right now. But really, it's not. It hasn't worked out that bad. It's pretty nice. It's in pretty good shape. But basically the process of tanning a hide when you're using egg yolks. If you don't have a solution available or you just want to try something different, it does work, and you have a very nice product in the end. So, there we go. Thanks for watching. And if you have a chance, subscribe, like, comment, and believe me, if you have any techniques that could help me out, let me know. I don't plan on doing this much more, but would really appreciate any tips that you can give me. For someone who's not a professional tanner, but just likes to have something like this for themselves. And I'm sure there's other people out there who want to do this with a deer, and hopefully this will help you out. So appreciate it, and thank you.